Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
That line belongs to Dirty Harry, but here's what belongs to Family Ties: a teenage boy in a three-piece suit, leaning back in a kitchen chair, reading the Wall Street Journal beneath a portrait of Richard Nixon. This is Alex P. Keaton. And for 7 seasons, he burned himself into the DNA of American television. Today we're diving into 15 weird facts about the most unexpectedly subversive family sitcom of the 1980s. From the actor who almost got the lead role to the executive who wanted to fire the guy who became a global icon. From the real romance that started on a soundstage to the song that died in 1981 and came back to life on NBC. From a president who wanted to be in the show to a cast member who asked for a plane crash ending. Welcome to Sitcom Secrets, where every rewatch reveals something new. Let's get into it. Fact 15: the Broderick rejection and the New York theater scene. Here's one that stops most television historians cold. Matthew Broderick was supposed to be Alex P. Keaton. Not almost. Not in the early stages. He actually won the part. Creator Gary David Goldberg saw Broderick's audition and was ready to hand him a contract on the spot. He delivered intellectual arrogance with a boyish charm that was exactly what Goldberg had imagined. But then Broderick said no, not because he wanted a movie deal, not because he had another offer. His father, James Broderick, a legendary figure from Family and Kolchak, was dying of terminal cancer. Matthew stayed in New York to be with him in his final months. By the time James Broderick passed away in November 1982, just as Family Ties was launching, the door had swung wide open for a replacement. That rejection sent everything cascading in a different direction. Broderick eventually became Ferris Bueller, and the role went to a 19-year-old Canadian actor who was broke and desperate for work. Sometimes saying no to one thing opens up an entirely different life for two people. Fact 14: I can't see that face on a lunchbox. Here's the moment that almost changed everything. Michael J. Fox had been cast. He was filming the pilot. Then Brandon Tartikoff, the president of NBC, the man who greenlit Hill Street Blues and The Cosby Show, watched the episode and told the producers to fire him. Not because Fox couldn't act, because his face wasn't marketable. Tartikoff looked at this kid and said, "This is not the kind of face you'll ever find on a lunchbox." Gary David Goldberg refused to fire him. He told Tartikoff that Fox could get you 2 laughs, he comes back with 5. By the time Family Ties hit number 2 in the ratings, Fox had become the most bankable young actor on television. Years later, when Back to the Future made him a global superstar, he had a custom lunchbox made with his face on it. He sent it to Tartikoff with a note, "To Brandon, this is for you to put your crow in. Love and kisses, Michael J. Fox." Tartikoff kept that lunchbox on his desk for the rest of his career. Sometimes the people who trust you are worth more than the people who doubt you. Fact 13: the parents are exactly the same age, and it's wild. Here's something that sounds impossible, but it's completely true. Meredith Baxter and Michael Gross, who played Stephen and Ellie's Keaton, share the exact same birthday, June 21st, 1947. They're not just the same age, they're birthday twins. On screen, they were supposed to be 5 or 6 years older than their eldest son, Alex. In real life, Michael J. Fox was born in 1961, making him only 14 years younger than both of them. This created a secondary problem. Brandon Tartikoff thought Fox was too short to believably be their biological son. The height difference bothered him. The age gap was supposed to stay invisible. None of it mattered once the 3 of them actually got on screen together. The chemistry transcended every stat sheet. That in itself is a kind of television magic. The numbers don't matter when the hearts align. And stay tuned. By fact 10, you'll see how another television giant almost derailed this show before it ever found an audience. Fact 12, the show was never supposed to be about Alex. Here's the fact that changes how you understand Family Ties entirely. The show was pitched to NBC with one simple tagline: "Kid parents, square kids." The entire premise was built around Stephen and Ellie's Keaton, 2 ex-hippies trying to raise children in Reagan's America. Alex was a supporting character, a foil, a joke. The parents were the leads. Then they filmed the 4th episode, summer of '82, in front of a live studio audience, and something unexpected happened. The audience couldn't stop laughing at Michael J. Fox. They reacted to him with an intensity that overshadowed everything else in the room. Gary David Goldberg saw it happening in real time and made a decision right there: pivot the entire show. He reportedly called Meredith Baxter and told her the series was becoming the Alex P. Keaton show. He even offered to let her out of her contract if she felt marginalized. She stayed. The show never looked back. Sometimes a show discovers what it is by watching the audience tell it the truth. Fact 11, the 20-hour days that almost broke him. Here's the most exhausting story in television history. In 1985, Steven Spielberg wanted Michael J. Fox to replace Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future. Gary David Goldberg said no, Fox was essential to family ties. Spielberg persisted. They reached a compromise that sounds insane. Fox could film both projects simultaneously as long as family ties remained the priority. The result was 3 months of 20-hour workdays. Fox would arrive at Paramount at 9:30 a.m. for sitcom rehearsals. By 5:15 p.m. he'd be in a station wagon driving to Universal, memorizing Marty McFly's lines over the Cahuenga Pass. He'd film Back to the Future until 2:30 a.m., then pass out in the station wagon. By 7 a.m. he'd be back at Paramount. Justine Bateman later said she never noticed anything was wrong. He never once let the exhaustion show on set. The movie that almost couldn't be made because of a sitcom became the highest-grossing film of 1985. Sometimes the most important work happens in the blur between two worlds. Fact 10. Tom Hanks and the night he played addiction. Before Tom Hanks was Tom Hanks, he guest-starred on Family Ties in an episode that remains one of the most raw depictions of alcoholism ever filmed on a sitcom. He played Ned Donnelly, Ella's younger brother. He first appeared in Season 1 as a charming but troubled character who'd embezzled $4.5 million from his employer. Viewers thought he was a charismatic screw-up. Then in Season 2, Say Uncle, Ned comes back. And he's a raging alcoholic. Alex discovers his hero, the guy he looked up to as a success, drinking beer straight from the fridge, then wine from a cooking bottle, then vanilla extract from the pantry because the stores are closed and he can't wait. There's a scene where Hank's character strikes Alex in a drunken rage. It shattered the sitcom bubble of the 1980s in a way that made viewers genuinely uncomfortable. It was too real for television. After this arc, Hank's film career exploded with Splash and he never returned to the show. The show got the best of him, and he got a completely different life. And stay tuned, by Fact 5, you'll discover another future superstar whose time on this show was just a stepping stone before one of the biggest careers in television. Fact 9, the P was never in the original script. Here's something that sounds trivial but explains how television works at its best. Alex Keaton was simply Alex Keaton in the original script. Then Michael J. Fox walked into his audition and instinctively introduced himself as Alex P. Keaton. He ad-libbed a middle initial, just threw it in. The writers loved it. It felt right. They wrote it into the show permanently. For 7 full seasons, viewers watched Alex P. Keaton and never once learned what the P stood for. The show never revealed it. Fan theories emerged. Mallory once suggested it stood for pompous, but it remained a mystery. In 2012, Fox himself said in an interview that even he never knew what it was supposed to be, he just threw it in the room and everyone agreed it sounded better. One spontaneous choice in an audition became the most iconic detail of the character's identity. Sometimes the smallest ad-lib changes everything. Fact 8, the city that moved without explanation. Here's a continuity break that nobody talks about but everybody should. For the first 2 seasons, the Keaton family lived in Cleveland, Ohio. Then, at the start of Season 3, without a single explanation, they lived in Columbus, Ohio. No moving episode. No dialogue about a new job for Steven. No mention of new schools for the kids. Just a complete relocation 140 miles south with zero acknowledgement. The writers added shopping bags from the real-world Columbus department store Lazarus and mentioned Woody Hayes and Darby Creek to ground the new setting. But the fact that the family moved without a single word remains one of television's most glaring continuity breaks. And it was never addressed. Sign off, sometimes the infrastructure of a show can shift completely and nobody even notices. Fact 7, the formula that nobody was supposed to see. Here's the architectural secret that held Family Ties together for 7 seasons. Gary David Goldberg trained at MTM Enterprises, and he brought their structural discipline to every episode. Almost every single episode of Family Ties followed the same 6-scene formula with a final tag or after the last commercial break. But the most consistent element was the ending. Goldberg mandated that in almost every episode, the final scene had to be some version of Alex apologizing. This wasn't lazy writing. It was necessary. Alex spent most of each episode scheming, being greedy, or manipulating his family. He had to be seen recognizing his mistakes by the end or the audience would stop rooting for him. So the writers locked him into an apology scene, sometimes explicit, sometimes implied. For 176 episodes, that formula held. It kept Alex likable even when he was being unlikable. That's not a bug in the show's design. That's the entire point. If you're enjoying these facts so far, do us a quick favor and hit that like button. It really helps us keep bringing you more content like this. Fact 6, Reagan's favorite show, and his rejected cameo. Here's one that crosses the line between television and actual politics. President Ronald Reagan publicly declared Family Ties his favorite television show. He watched it in the White House. His administration even reportedly asked if Reagan could make a guest appearance on the show. The producers politely declined. They knew that having a sitting president on the show would shatter the fictional reality they'd built. Meanwhile, Michael J. Fox, a Canadian who grew up with no stake in American partisan politics, found himself in the center of a massive cultural argument. He got fan mail from conservatives who saw Alex Keaton as a legitimate role model for young Republicans. He got fan mail from liberals who viewed Alex as brilliant satire of modern greed. Both sides claimed him. Both sides felt represented. Fox grew up wasn't a part of any American political construct, he later said. As the character developed, Republicans took Alex under their wing. But liberals wrote saying, "Way to go satirizing that point of view. I was loved on both sides." A show about the culture war somehow made everybody feel heard. Fact 5. The launching pad effect for future superstars. Here's the secret that Family Ties never advertised. It was a launching pad for the next generation of television and film icons. Before Courtney Cox was Monica Geller, she played Lauren Miller, Alex's psychology student girlfriend, in the final 2 seasons. Before Joseph Gordon-Levitt became a film star, he appeared in 2 1988 episodes as a kindergarten friend of baby Andrew. Before Julia Louis-Dreyfus defined television with Seinfeld, she appeared as a lawyer in a season 6 episode. River Phoenix guest starred as a math tutor who developed a crush on Jennifer. The show that was supposed to be about parents raising kids became a finishing school for future superstars. Fox's co-star Justine Bateman would build a different kind of career, eventually earning a degree in computer science while still acting. Tracy Paulhan, who played Ellen Reed, would become Mrs. Michael J. Fox in real life. Courtney Cox went on to a show called Friends, which you might have heard of. Sometimes a hit show's greatest legacy isn't what it was, it's who it launched. Fact 4. The on-screen romance that became real life. Here's a love story that started in the script and never left. In season 4, Alex met Ellen Reed, played by Tracy Paulhan. Their relationship became the emotional center of the show. Their slow dance to At This Moment became one of the defining television moments of the 1980s, vulnerable, heartbreaking, perfect. The on-screen chemistry was so genuine because it was real. Fox and Paulhan began dating during their time on the show and married in 1988, just as the series was entering its final year. They've been married ever since. Fox later recalled something remarkable. For the first 10 years of their marriage, At This Moment would spontaneously start playing whenever they walked onto a dance floor anywhere in the world. The song became the soundtrack to their actual relationship. Every slow dance brought them back to that moment on the Family Ties soundstage when a fictional romance became something real. Not every love story stays on the page. Fact 3. The song that died and came back to life. Here's one of the greatest resurrection stories in music history. At This Moment by Billy Vera and the Beatles was recorded in 1981 during a live performance at the Roxy in West Hollywood. It was released as a single and stalled at number 79 on the Billboard Hot 100. Then Vera's record label, Alpha Records, went bankrupt. The song disappeared. By 1985, Billy Vera was making a living as an actor, playing bit parts, performing in small clubs on weekends. A producer from Family Ties had seen him perform in a Los Angeles club and remembered the song. He called Vera and asked if he could use it for an episode where Alex dances with Ellen. Vera said yes. NBC was overwhelmed with calls after the episode aired. Viewers wanted to know what song was playing, but it was out of print. By the time the show used the song again in a season 5 breakup episode, the demand was unstoppable. Rhino Records re-released it, and in January 1987, 6 full years after its original release, At This Moment hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Alex P. Keaton lost the girl. Billy Vera, at age 42, finally got his number 1 record. Sometimes all a forgotten song needs is the right moment to be remembered. Fact 2. The cast asked for a plane crash ending. Here's something that sounds like a dark joke, but it's completely real. As Family Ties approached its final season, the cast members grew genuinely concerned about the future of the show. They didn't want it to become a reunion factory. No Family Ties gets back together specials where the Keatons would limp through another episode in their 50s. So they made a morbid request to Gary David Goldberg. They asked if the series finale could end with the entire Keaton family dying in a plane crash. This would make future reunions impossible. Goldberg declined. Instead, the 2-part finale sent Alex off to Wall Street, his dream, to start his adult life. But the character of Alex P. Keaton was too popular to stay buried. Years later, on Fox's follow-up sitcom Spin City, the writers included a winking meta-reference. In the season 4 finale, a character mentions meeting a junior congressman from Ohio. His name? Alex P. Keaton. The show never got to bury him. The character outlived the series by years, exactly what the cast wanted to prevent. Sometimes the things we create become bigger than we are. Fact 1. The hero who was never supposed to be the hero. Here's the most important secret of Family Ties, and it explains everything about why the show mattered. Gary David Goldberg has stated plainly and repeatedly, he did not design Alex P. Keaton to be sympathetic. The character was a satire. The greed, the Nixon poster, the embrace of Reaganomics, the obsession with money, that was supposed to be the joke. Alex was supposed to represent everything wrong with 1980s materialism. He was supposed to be the butt of the joke, not the heart of the show. Michael J. Fox changed that. He didn't change the script. He didn't negotiate different lines. He made a different choice. He played Alex as a scared kid underneath all the ambition. He made viewers understand that the greed came from insecurity, that the bravado masked vulnerability. He made Alex Keaton human. When the show ended in 1989, the New York Times called him greed with the face of an angel. Goldberg admitted that was exactly right. The most subversive thing Family Ties ever did wasn't in the writing. It was in the casting, bringing in the wrong actor and watching him become exactly right for 30 million viewers a week. A character built for mockery became a character worth rooting for. A show that was supposed to satirize conservatism accidentally made conservative values relatable to a generation. Sometimes the greatest television magic happens when someone ignores the plan and follows their instinct instead. Family Ties worked because it never picked a side. It just showed a family that disagreed about everything but loved each other anyway. That's why it still holds up. If these facts surprised you, hit like, subscribe to Sitcom Secrets, and drop a comment. Which one got you most? We read every one. Until next time.